Okay, well, it being 5:30 on Monday, June 30th, I'll call to order the meeting of the Shelburne Select Board. We have a fairly light agenda this evening. Hey, Andrew,
Good evening.
welcome aboard. We'll begin with the acceptance and review of the minutes. We have the June 16th um, special meeting that we held and the June 23rd minutes. Have you both had time to review them? Have any questions or changes? I didn't find anything in them that would change the correctness of the statements. Typos I don't care about here and there, but any feedback from you, Rod or Andrew on it?
No, I'm fine with what I read.
Okay.
I am also.
So
I will
one
move to accept.
on both?
Yeah.
Okay.
So move our second.
Again, been moved and seconded to accept the minutes of June 16th and June 23rd meetings of the Select Board as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, put the matter to a vote. Rod?
Aye.
And,
Yes.
and,
Aye.
and I am I. Motion passes 3-0-0. We have an appointment at 5:45. We're off lickety split, so we have time for our liaison reports. Uh, Rod, would you like to begin?
Um, I talked with Tom from the what's his official title? Um,
Emergency Management Director.
Emergency Management. He'd like to set up a table workshop sometime in mid-September, and then again in January. And I told him that was probably a good idea. That I'd be more than willing to attend.
Okay. He's done them before and
As
they've been fruitful.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. And as for the veterans, I have not heard back from them. They were said they were going to mail me some paperwork to go over and sign, and as of yet, I have not received that yet. So
Okay.
when I get back, that was kind of on my list of places to stop.
Okay. And that it?
That's it. Yes.
Perfect. Andrew?
Yes, the Pratt Building Committee is has scheduled a meeting but not met yet, so I don't have anything to report there, but I will probably by the next meeting or so. Um, and um, the I guess this is not a liaison report per se, but just an update about the work on the Memorial Hall Theater seems to be going ahead in smoothly and professionally. They've taken up the old floor in the lobby and are laying down a new one. And So that seems to be progressing uh, in an on-track fashion. And We'll see how it goes as they tackle some of the other projects. The tin ceiling will be the big question mark, mainly just for supplier reasons. Um, but that's all going forward well. I did not get a chance to talk to Jeff Johnston about highway stuff this morning, so I will have more at the next meeting. But Steve has been on vacation, and I think they're doing road patching and kind of last cleanup of the old Greenfield Road spending accounts. So once the year turns and we're in a new fiscal year, we can have a kind of closeout report on the Mass Works grant for Old Greenfield Road. I did see in the newspaper this morning that the state legislature has approved $7 million for dirt roads. So that was a positive development and might provide some opportunities for our grant writer and Jeff to work on in that regard. the article did mention that Conway is interested in going after that funding to get a new grader. So that's something we might want to take a look at, given that our grader is, I think, over 30 years old. Um, but it seems to be a workhorse and is still working. So we'll see what Jeff wants to do there. But that was at least some promising news in the fair share money is juicing up the funding available for transportation.
Yeah. I was surprised that article mentioned there were like out of the 350 some odd cities and towns, like 330 had dirt roads to some degree or not, which surprised me a bit. But
Yeah, I think they said though that there were like 30, 35 towns that had at least 40% of their roads were dirt. So those were the kind of high priority ones, you know.
all right, we should be well fixed there.
Yeah.
Um, One note in that department, I did this afternoon sign the orders for the two vehicles ordered for the highway department that were approved at the town meeting. So that's moving forward as well. Um,
Oh, and before I check out on this, just a note, Rick, that I'd like to bring up the survey of 49 Mechanic Street under other business. We held off on that last meeting because Rodney wasn't here, so
Yep.
we'll bring it up there.
Great. Terry, any updates? I think progress has been made on the information center.
Yes, the siding on the information center and new window is complete. I've reached out to the painter to see how soon he can start, hoping within the next couple of weeks. Um, Transfer station, as of this afternoon, we've given out over 415 tags, which go into effect tomorrow. And I understand our new hire trained with Mr. Giard on Saturday, and it went really well. So,
All fantastic news.
Terry, I have a question. Did you, in your sort of general estimating on the tags, did you mostly hand out like two per household, or was it kind of a mix?
the maximum is two per household.
Right,
Most people did have two vehicles.
right.
Some were single vehicle
No, I was just
households.
trying to get a sort of a ballpark on how many households we might have hit with that first pass there.
Still seems like there are many holes, but I know a lot of people use private pickup or they have dumpsters. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. My neighbors have private pickup.
Yeah, I see them up and down Route 2, several places as well, a lot
Yeah.
out in the Patton area too. Terrific. Um, Mohawk Trail Regional School District Personnel Negotiations Subcommittee. Um, the Paraprofessionals Union has agreed to the terms. That will come back to the school committee. A meeting is set for tomorrow, July 1st, where I will vote on that agreement as the representative of the select boards of the 8 towns in the district. So that's darn near a done deal. Uh, Franklin Transit Authority not meeting again till September 18th. Police Department, the chief has proposed looking into a modernization of the town payroll timesheets by going from paper to an electronic system. And that's to be reviewed by our town admin, the treasurer collector, and they'll review that, figure out whether that's something we should pursue or make sense to pursue. So just wanted you to know that the subject has been broached. It is a lot of paperwork, for sure. Um, Upon the merger of the Buckland Police Department into the Shelburne Police Department, Buckland supplied 2 tasers and the related equipment, with 6 full-time officers and 6 part-time officers. Only two of the what they call the less lethal force devices was quite inadequate. Sergeant Kurt Gilmore, he did the legwork, and through his efforts, the town of Shelburne now has a taser for all full-time police officers, plus one spare as backup, a total value of $24,522. They came from the state police, the Mass Department of Corrections, and the town of Lynn. They were donated as they have all updated their equipment beyond these, as these currently are no longer supported by the manufacturer, but they're better than nothing until we can find a way to finance and upgrade our own. But I think it's a significant improvement and a fair amount of money that's through his efforts came to the town. The Police Services Advisory Committee, the last three meetings, the quorum could not be reached. No new date has been set as yet. Pending items include the search for qualified candidates for the police chief's administrative assistant, and then to review and prepare an updated three-year renewal of the intermunicipal agreement for police services between Buckland and Shelburne. So those are pending, and I hope we in that group can get it together and get a meeting to start putting some of these things behind us. That's all I have. Any questions on those or anything else?
I have
I have
nothing.
a Windows 10 computer I could donate to the town.
Yeah, I'm sure that will be well received.
It's about to be unsupported.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a few more minutes. Old business, the transfer station attendant. Terry mentioned a moment ago that the new hire that we chose during our executive session has accepted the offer. It was pending review of his references. He did volunteer to come in last Saturday and train, as Terry mentioned. He's away this week, so Tuesday and Saturday this week we're covering. Jeff was able to arrange Rick Grant to take care of tomorrow. And then the Bailey will begin the following week. Do we need an official vote to hire, or did we do that pending during our previous, pending the review of the references?
I think that's how we
Yes.
phrased the motion when we met. Yeah.
That's correct.
Perfect.
Yep.
I'm just curious, while on the Bailey topic, that's great news, and I'm really pleased that we were able to get a good candidate so quickly. I'm just curious whether going forward we have any backup for him, like if he falls ill or has to go out of town or who knows what, do we have any gap filling strategy there?
Well, if we do, it's not official, but I mean, we were able to gap fill tomorrow with Rick Grant, who agreed to come in. So he may be an option for us. He just didn't want to do it as a regular thing any longer.
Okay.
And we've had, is it Joe from the Highway Department?
Yes.
Who's filled in on days like that. So
Mhm.
not an official plan, but we've managed to make it work as it's come up before.
And if
Yeah,
we're able to hire a part-time buildings and groundskeeper, that would also be a resource.
That's right.
true. Yeah.
True.
Good. All right.
And the Pocket Park project, the landscaping proposals did go out and they're due back July 21st at 2 p.m. So we'll see how that goes. Hope for the best there to make our money go as far as it can. We're coming up on item C, Village Information Center. We covered that already with Terry's input. And we saw the reminder sheet that we sent out February 20th to all the boards and committees and commissions that we had set a new policy for putting their agendas and their minutes on the website for postings, and it has not really been completely adopted across the board. We've had inquiries asking why things aren't there and why they aren't getting posted there. As we all know, the legal posting place is the foyer of the town hall. But we think it makes, in this day and age, a whole lot of sense. And I believe we voted unanimously to request or send that memo to all the boards back in February. I think we should be sending it out again if we haven't already.
I will be sending it out again with the board's blessing.
Any problem, Rod or Andrew, with
I have
sending it out
no
again?
issues with that.
No.
Okay, great. And it is 5:45, so let's go to our only appointment this evening. It's James Bomer. And you are on, James, correct?
I'm here. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Indeed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You had sent a request for this meeting. So why don't we start? We'll give you the floor. Give us a thumbnail version of what you're asking for tonight.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of properties downtown. I'm a builder for years. I'm 57. I've been working on these properties for quite a while. The 18 to 22 Baker Avenue is, the short Baker Ave just across from Town Hall at the back side of the parking lot where the Keystone Market is. And there's an adjacent lot there that, because of the arrangement of the Baker House property, it's difficult to park cars because there's only so much room on Baker Ave to access the property, including this extra lot. So I need to create, or I would like to create, a space for a tenant to park there. And so I started building kind of what would be a little carport. And I talked to Jim Hawkins about it. He said, I gave him the details. And I understand that parking is a big deal because there's not too much, although the back row of that parking lot tends to have a number of abandoned cars sitting for years. Some of them sitting for as long as probably 5 years. So at least 3 plus. Anyways, over by the EV charging station is where I would like to be able to have a curb cut to allow the parking of a vehicle. And as I was doing it, it became apparent that I realize now more that parking lots are measured out 9 feet, 9 feet, and that where it would access would take up 2 spaces. And that became very apparent. And I would, be willing to make it so it's just one, but I'd like to request from the town who owns that land, or where the cars are parked, if I could curb cut so that I can access that property, because we really don't have a way in there. And be able to park a car for someone that would be parking in the lot anyways. That's the gist.
Well, obviously, there's several issues with that, as you know, and I think my fellow select board members are, that when you did block them off and blocked off 2 spots and put signs up, no parking in the cones, a lot of feathers got ruffled a little bit. And then you actually started construction on the carport that you mentioned earlier. You do have a cease and desist from June 6th on that and requesting or ordering the immediate removal of it. I went by today. I didn't see any action beginning to remove it because it's within inches of the border of the parking lot. So that's still a concern. But my understanding is that the you're asking us to basically give away access of a town parking space or two, um, setting a precedent for others who may be interested in us facilitating um, access to their properties for more parking with the advent of more B&Bs and Airbnb situations that require parking spaces. There's concerns about liability, and just in a nutshell, it just seems wrong to give away private access to an abutter um, for from our own public lot that's been that way. Yeah, I'm seven,
Yeah.
I'm 75, been that way since I was born.
Yeah.
So,
Shelburne doesn't change much. You're Rick, right?
yes.
It's nice to see your face in person. Some of what I think you have stated is not really, it's not what's happened or is happening. As far as creating a big stir and putting up no parking, I wanted to be able to get the tractor in there to work on that part of the property. And really, this is about accessing that piece of land. Father James, who owns a house on Water Street, wanted to buy a piece of that land so he could create, a driveway going into his place. Um, but we don't have a way into the piece of land, so it's about that, and it's feet back. It's not interfering with anything, and I did not have any word that anything had to be removed. And I don't have money, so I'm like, I can't just you know wave a magic wand on things. um and then as far as the uproar stuff about it, that has to do with Chad Felinsky at the Hot Fire Grill.
Well,
And
we don't need to go down that road and mention names.
okay,
Um, let's stay to the crux to the issue.
okay,
I will
okay.
correct you. The letter dated June 17th that you got from the building inspector says the structure violation, section 5.2, and the dimensional schedule due to its 3-foot setback from the property line without a variance, the structure must be removed immediately. So uh, I think I quoted it fairly accurately that you've been ordered to remove it and you haven't even started.
Yeah, well, the tractor's broken. I raised two kids. I don't have a lot of time. My understanding when I talked with Jim that the structure was not in violation because it's not because it's like a temporary structure. It's not, and it's feet back. So if someone was putting a storage shed on their property, and I could try to apply for special variance. I've gone through a number of town variances and things, and I'm always trying to abide by the rules. And I know the town likes to stick to the keeping things the way they are. I don't have Airbnbs, so that is not correct as far as that's concerned. I don't have Airbnbs.
Mhm.
Um, I've never been given a penny, so I don't have any help or any money. There's no family money. It's all been me working really hard, and I don't have much resource. And I have a building with people living there, and for me, getting into the piece of land is important, but it also allows someone to park there that would be parking in the lot otherwise. And so I would like the board to reconsider having this change in use with a curb cut next to where the EV charging stations are. And during the time I was working at this spring, it wasn't the busy time of year, and there were not, full spaces. It just seems to be a very contentious sort of subject. Um, but as far as paying town taxes for, 8 years on the property and proving the property, working hard, for me, I'm requesting to be able to get into the piece of property. And that's the only way for us to get into it. So what it would be is one 9-foot parking space, curb cut, so we could go in there. There would be a car parked, so there'd be one less in the lot. Plus, we have access to go in for the various things that we do there, and taking a tractor in and out, taking things, that we do on a piece of land. I mean, I had dreamed someday to make a request to have like you know, I wanted to do a coffee shop and a yurt. And that would have to have access from that same location. So as far as a change of use for that spot, that is what I'm requesting. And I would, like to ask the board to please consider making a change. Just as in the old days, the way things changed a lot back then. People made changes and they helped people that were working hard on their properties and doing things. I've been paying town taxes for 25 years. And, I just would hope that the town would try to help me as I try to help this property become more of what it can be, and not, you know, just overgrown garbage. I'm always picking up all the trash there and helping maintain. And so,
We,
you know,
we want to be good neighbors, as do you, I'm sure.
uh
Why can't you access that from Baker Avenue where, like today, there's a moving truck? Why can't you come in from Baker Avenue?
yeah, there's just not enough space there with cars that park. And when you look at the size of that lot, it's the only way into that side of the lot. Otherwise you'd have to go onto Baker Ave into the driveway and drive across the gardens and around trees to get there. Um, and yes, there's a moving truck there today, and his name's David, and he's a nice person, and he's moving in. Um, I Rick, with all due respect, it seems like
Having hard,
having hard what?
your
I don't.
connection is not uh, holding up.
It might be your connection,
I think
Andrew.
it's
I
you.
can hear Rick just fine.
Yeah, I think it's you, Andrew. He's been.
Yeah.
Can you
So, anyways, what was I saying?
Well, I think we got the gist of it. Let's see what we have our town council with us tonight, Donna. We'd like you to weigh in on. I think even if we were to decide to give him an easement or something to take away one spot, this is something that would need to go to town meeting anyway. But there, I'd like your input on the whole thought of the town basically giving away or an access to a private property from a public parking, which we know is maxed out at many times of the year. But your thoughts, Donna?
Yeah, I think that I'm just not clear it's doable. One question to you, Mr. Bummer, is
Yes.
lot you're talking about abuts another lot on Baker Avenue?
Yeah, it's the address is 18 to 22 Baker Ave, and the building itself is 18 and 20. And so, well, I don't know if the extra attached lot is the 22. That's kind of, in my mind, always what it's been. Bless you.
Yep.
But it's a sizable, it's not like a small piece of land. It's quite a large, lot in town. And
Does it have frontage on Baker Avenue?
the the house has frontage that the house itself goes along Baker Ave, and then the amount that remains is a driveway. So there are a couple cars, but that's on the Baker Ave side, where to go in there, you would then drive. Well, there's a fence, but you got to go through that, through gardens, around trees. So it's not accessible to that other side of the lot.
So, but you could make it accessible.
No, not really. Not practically. No, because it's just there's not room, and people will park there, and it's not possible to get in. And
But you
what
could
I'm
design a driveway with parking behind the house where the gardens and the fence and everything are, so that everybody could come in that driveway and then access the different buildings on Baker Avenue.
Yeah, it's not exactly laid out like that, because the area where I'm requesting a curb cut is 70 feet away, or maybe more, 80 feet.
Well,
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so it's like coming in to the piece of property that's attached to what you see as the Baker house and driveway. It's further west. And, the Baker house, it has extra land that comes out into the parking lot at the front of Baker Ave that I haven't claimed. But that still doesn't allow like more parking. There's Baker Ave with the house on it, which takes up much of, because Baker Ave's so short. There's only the small portion in front of the house connected to Baker Ave. So to the west of the house is this large lot, and the only way in is where I'm asking the town to consider an easement so I can get in there.
Okay, so I see oh, sorry, go Andrew, go ahead.
I'm just, Jim, I have to say that trying to visualize all these different possibilities and options is not really that productive. If you really wanted to come and bring a proposal to the select board for a curb cut, I'd like to see, a share screen map of what you're talking about so that you could answer Donna's question more directly. If you want
Yeah.
parking on your property and you
How
want
do
to
I share? Just press.
But Andrew, I think before we even go there, there's so many legal issues here.
I know, I'm just saying that I
Yeah.
can't even, I
Visualize it.
can't
I
even
can't
entertain
either.
your proposal without a map.
I can
Oh,
share a map right now if I can share an image.
Now Donna, why don't you continue with what
all right.
the
So, yeah, there's a lot of legal issues. Number one, that lot probably isn't entitled to a variance. So your shed has to be that, I believe Jim Hawkins said it's a 10-foot setback there. And it does matter for maintenance of the parking lot because snow removal, maintaining the parking lot, working on the parking lot, a public parking lot needs that extra 10 feet. That's why we have those kind of setbacks. So there's room to put snow, there's room to put equipment when they're maintaining the lot. So the shed, particularly if it's as large as you say, needs to be pushed back to where it belongs. Jim's already ordered you to remove that and put that where it is. And to get a variance to put it 3 feet from the parking lot, just I don't believe is legally doable. You can go to the ZBA and talk to them about it, but clearly you don't meet the criteria under 40A Section 10 for a variance for that property. Additionally, that lot is a public parking lot, and it's not really appropriate for a curb cut. A curb cut is onto a public way. A parking lot, while public land, is not public way in the same sense, except if you're driving under the influence. So it's really problematical to give somebody a curb cut into a parking lot. Number one, because there's some danger issues there. Number two, Jim says, well, the guy's gonna park on it, that'll give him a chance to park on the lot on Baker. But then if somebody parks in the parking lot, the parking space right by the curb cut, which they would have every legal right to do, then he couldn't get out of his space. So, that doesn't take away or give any additional parking to the parking lot as he sort of surmised. The other piece of it is that we have a lot of properties in Shelburne, as you well know, that would like additional parking and would like to be able to reserve a parking lot and public parking lot, a parking space and a public parking lot, or two or three, or whatever they think their business needs. And that's a very significant precedent to set, doing that. Thirdly, that would be an easement over public land if you did that, and it would have to go to town meeting, and town meeting would have to vote to let him have an easement over public land to use that. So, I mean, and then there's the liability. Once you give him a right to, or one of his tenants a right to drive over a public parking lot into that property, then the town has liability if there's any accident with them coming out into that parking lot. There's liability if somebody's parked there and emergency vehicles need to get in there. If I mean, it's really rather complex. It's obviously up to you in town meeting what you decide, but I think that, I think it makes a lot of sense for Mr. Bomer to re-look at his property and figure out a way to access his property as everybody does, from their frontage legally to get onto their property and to be able to have enough parking for their tenants or whatever they need on their parking, for their property. So, I mean, that's sort of a thumbnail sketch of what I see. I haven't seen a plan of the land. I don't know how many gardens you'd have to remove. I don't know how many fences you'd have to remove. I don't know how difficult it would be to do that because we don't have any kind of plan, but I think that it's a really problematical precedent, and town meeting would make the decision, not all of you.
Well,
I
I think
understand
I think
what
it's
you're saying. I just want to follow up because it's just to be clear, it's to access the piece of land that I own, pay taxes on for good purpose and serving two purposes. There is this situation in many towns where they do allow this in public lots, public areas to access people's properties. It is common to do this, and you have signs. And the liability piece, I don't think that exists like that because in a public space, the liability is anybody parking and coming through the parking lot. This is, assigned area to not be parked in, and it can be written right on the space on the road, no parking in this space, and it would have a person parked there and allow access. And I would like to talk to the zoning board, if I can, about this, to consider doing this. And you know um it's been quite a challenge, Rick, Donna, others. Um, Terry knows some of the history where I am always trying and I'm always helping. And there's been situations around the road salt on Baker Ave, and I requested to have less salt because there was massive dumping of salt. And then after I requested, a truck backed right up to our building at the end of Baker Ave and sprayed the whole side of the building with salt. And I brought a bucket of salt down to town hall. And so there's been these ongoing things where the town just doesn't seem to want to help. And I don't really enjoy the play hardball kind of thing. I'm just trying to do good by other people. It doesn't even, I guess it's about me and helping me, but it's really about helping other people too. So, I think it's easier, for the board and those involved to say, no, we don't want to do this. but I would like to continue to pursue it being done so that we have that access to the piece of land from
Okay.
now into the future.
All right, Jim. I think we appreciate you made your case. I can see why that looks to you like the easiest, most straightforward way to access that property. Um, you do have another option off of the actual public way. You, yes, it would be more work for you, but people do work to make things happen like that.
It
That you,
doesn't, though.
that you
There,
could open up.
there's not room. Then
Well, you
if there's cars parked in front of the Baker house, there's not a way into that piece of property, and there's not room there for enough cars.
okay.
So, there's a lot of tenants. That's who's parking in the parking lot over there, especially in the back row. They're all tenants from above Mocha Maya's and next to Town Hall and stuff. So it's, what I'm doing seems to make a lot more sense and a lot more intended purpose than the many people that are just leaving cars and living in buildings on the other side of the street.
Okay.
Um,
Rodney, any comments from you?
I think we've touched on just about everything I've been thinking about. I don't have a fond feeling of losing another parking space. And like you say, he's been ordered to take the building down. No action's been taken. I mean, if he wants to go to before the zoning board, I'm all for that, but
Yep. So I think we've heard you out. We've
okay.
appreciate the information. I don't see us saying one way or the other tonight. I think you obviously got a sense that there's a lot of legal issues involved here. We have to take our advice from town council, and at this point, it's nothing that we can help you with. As she
Okay.
suggested, you could check with the ZBA, but if our town council says that lot isn't uh, possible to have a variance issued, I think you said, Donna.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if he really can't do anything with that lot and he's paying building lot taxes or something on it, he can always go to the assessors for an abatement if it's not a building lot and it
I've
can't.
done abatement. They refuse those. So I've tried that. Every time yeah, I tried. Thanks,
I have,
Donna, though. Appreciate it.
I think, look, I mean, I think getting, some sort of landscape architect or somebody of that nature
Yeah.
out there to see if there's not some way to use all that space coming off Baker Ave and using your property and
Yeah.
not trying to get an easement from the town through a public parking lot, is really what needs to be tried here.
If you guys could also do something about all the green flies coming out of the dumpsters behind the hot fire grill that's on everybody's picnic tables within 5 blocks of downtown. There's green head flies everywhere.
Okay. Well, we're way off subject there, but
Yeah,
listen,
we are.
we've given
It's
this about a
quality
half
of life
hour.
stuff. Thank you.
You,
I hope you guys have a good night. Thanks for taking the time.
you too. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Okay, thank you for your input, Donna.
Done with me?
Yes.
Well, maybe I just have one item that I would like to follow up on from that conversation. It seems like the one area that the board can and should look into is the question of people parking their cars in the public lot for long periods of time. And we ran into that issue some years back with the parking lot up by the Historical Society, where people are putting their boats there for 6 months at a time and stuff like that. And I believe we addressed that. Have we successfully addressed that, or is that still a perennial issue up there?
Um, I I think it was addressed through conversation with the people who were leaving their boats and moving vans. But there's no official bylaw that addresses that problem of long-term parking.
Because it seems like that is actually a form of taking that we should probably come to some resolution of, because it feels like it's a disservice to the larger community to have those parking spaces essentially privatized.
Yep.
I mean, we could certainly draft, as Terry called it, a long-term ban on long-term parking bylaw in the parking lots. And then, the police could just, for a while, keep track of license plates on cars that seem to be there for a long period of time and deal with it that way and probably, reduce it significantly. But I mean, it's just creating liability for the town with people parking boats and travel trailers and antique cars or junk cars, whatever, in parking lots, I mean, and
Yeah.
I don't know whether they cause problems when they're trying to plow for snow and stuff like that. I would think they'd cause a lot of problems when they're trying to
Mhm.
clear those parking lots.
While we've got everybody on, I'd like to give you a quick thumbnail. This was brought to me a year ago, I believe, about those that he mentioned tonight that have been parked down by the charging section. There's three vehicles been there forever. Um, Flat tire, obviously haven't moved. Um, we took the license plates, the police ran them. They are legally registered, so they are not abandoned. The inspection stickers and the plate stickers are all outdated. Doesn't matter unless they drive it out on the road.
Well,
The
I,
plate is registered. So wait a minute, Donna. So then we said, okay, well, um, now what do we do? Do we have a long-term parking? Well, no, we don't. Okay, that's something maybe we should pursue. However, it's my understanding that the police, if we had a long-term parking, the police aren't even allowed to chalk a tire and come back later to see if it's still there, because it's considered an invasion of uh, personal property or something to that effect. So there were just so many things that came up that I said, geez, what the heck do we do about this? I think maybe tonight we could get those known offenders that are there, pull their names, send them a polite letter of request that they remove them, and I assume that they won't. But that was the first thing that came to my mind is we tow vehicles on snowstorms in the winter. Why aren't those three targeted specifically in a snowstorm? Because they certainly are prohibiting cleaning the lot properly.
and are these lots allowed, are people allowed to overnight park in them? Do tenants overnight park in them and use them that way?
Yeah.
So we can't do a no overnight parking ban.
Right. It would be
Uh,
a long-term ban if you're there for, I don't know, we'd have to pick some number of days or hours or whatever. But Rick, I think, I understand the tire chalking thing, but we do have such things as cameras with date stamps on them. And so it would not be a massive lift for police to just use a date stamp camera to identify a long-term parking violation. So I would strongly recommend that we go ahead with that bylaw and, at least take, I understand that in a small town that there's only so much parking enforcement you can or want your police officers to be doing, but it seems like, getting owners to move, junk vehicles that have been there for a very long time, that feels like a doable project.
Would you like to support the drafting of a letter that we can send to the obvious ones that have been
Sure, if you want to start there, I'm happy to start with a letter, but I would like to move ahead with Donna's bylaw idea and have that be the next step, because it's not just the Keystone lot, it's the historical lot, there's the Cross Street lot, and you know I think we just need to take a stand and say those are public parking lots, not private parking lots.
I agree 100%, and I support trying to find a way to do it. And if Donna can figure that out, yay. The camera timestamp, um, they come by, they take a picture with a timestamp. They come by again, take a picture with a timestamp, and the guy says, "Oh, I took it over to get gas and brought it back in between that time. I mean, how do you enforce it?
Oh, if
That's
there's a
my
flat tire on it, you're not going to believe that story.
yeah, that's
I
one of
mean,
the three.
I mean, there's a lot of different things. I mean, police give parking tickets and stuff like that all the time where people, try to go before the magistrate and argue that they went and got gas and came back, and they go and get gas the exact same time every day or every week. And the police just happen to not see that, but they see the car there 24/7, So,
Mhm.
I mean, it's sort of, who you believe at that stage of the game if we have to get to that point. I mean, hopefully we can just explain to people that, send a letter basically saying these are not long-term parking spots. You can't leave cars there. You have the right to park there, if you have business or live downtown, but it's not long-term parking and you can't just leave vehicles there. And that if they're not removed, we're going to have to take more formal action. And then we can work on a bylaw that will be, and we'll just try and set reasonable parameters.
Okay.
That a car, if you go on vacation, if you live downtown and you have two cars and you go on vacation and you're only taking one, you shouldn't have to hire somebody to move your car from a space to a space, every day or something like that because you've gone on a week's vacation. But on the other hand, using it for winter parking of your boat or summer park or winter parking of your travel trailer, is doesn't make sense.
Okay. So are we asking Donna to draft a
Asking
letter,
Donna. Okay. All right.
draft a letter to begin with and see if we go on the next step later to actually look at a bylaw?
I would like to move on both of those things at the same time and just say, let's do them both. The bylaws got to go to town meeting. It's going to be a long process to get this done.
Yeah.
So why not just start now and see how it goes. If we get to town meeting and 100% of those violators have moved their cars, I will stand up and say, hey, I was wrong. The volunteer system is working in Shelburne. But let's just take a bet on that now, okay?
Eric,
As parking clerk, I have no problem writing the letters to those cars that are parked long term. That'll take that off Donna's plate.
perfect.
In terms of the bylaw, I think it'd be great if there are bylaws out there that you could find that might help us. Or I can do some digging too.
Yeah, I'm going to start at the AG's office like I always do. If you call Nicole Capriol or one of them, Terry, they'll tell you if they've approved a long-term parking bylaw and what town
Okay.
it is. It's a pretty easy first step. Then
Okay.
we'll have to
Let's
get
begin
it
there.
and tailor it to Shelburne, but that's where I would start.
Okay. Let's begin there and see what we need to go further then.
Because then we get one that we know has been approved by the AG's office already.
Right.
And then, so we don't have to dance around that and then see if it fits Shelburne's needs.
Perfect. I think we got a plan. Thank
Good.
you so much. Appreciate it, you being
Yes.
Donna.
All right, everybody. Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good evening. Okay. We're down to new business. Item A.
Just one comment.
Yes, Rod.
On the winter banning parking. I think we should enforce that a little more stricter and maybe start towing vehicles. When I plowed for the town of Shelburne, we didn't do that, and it was extremely hard trying to maneuver around some of these vehicles.
We did actually tow vehicles last winter.
Oh, good. Perfect.
Harry?
Yeah, that last row we advertise as safe parking during
Okay.
the winter parking ban. But it does make a mess in a heavy snowstorm because just the bank of snow
Yep.
gets pushed up against those cars.
Why did we make that a safe zone?
There's no other place for tenants to park. So the parking lot below Deerfield Ave is one. I believe Cross Street is one, and the last row in that big parking lot.
So even we don't have a right to tow those during a snowstorm.
No.
Those offenders. Okay. Well, let's start. Let's
I,
start with
I would say that if we have not succeeded by the time winter parking bans roll around, we could designate, certain spaces back there to be safe
Yeah.
parking and exclude the people who've been parking there for 5 years, and then just use that as our next best opportunity to move them along. Um, but that would be my recommendation. If they're cars with flat tires, then people might think twice about whether they want to pull them out of the police impoundment lot. Um, but
I hope we can do something
I
because
think there are ways we could tow those cars if we have to get there. If our letters and our kind entreaties don't make an impact.
yep, I agree. Well, hopefully we can have an impact on this because it's come to me by from more than one person for sure.
Yep. I've also heard.
Okay, on to new business. Item A, the Mass DOT, Franklin Regional Transit Authority. We got this at our last meeting and kicked it down the road. Um, I'm sure you've both reviewed it. It was a surprise to me, but I'll give you my quick take on it, and then I'd like to hear yours. They call this a proposal for uh, a vulnerable road user for their bus stop location. If you flip through um, the packet to the space they want to deal with, it's actually right in front of the entrance to the senior center. It's quite a distance down the road from the actual bus stop locations. You can see the map there that shows the two bus stops. One is roughly by the bike rack at the library, and the other is opposite it along the building for the Greenfield Savings Bank. Then, if you look at the next map they provide us, you can see those two red marks. That's up and away from there, and it's a crosswalk currently. They showed pictures of their wheelchair accessible already. What they want to do on if you're heading from Bridge Street out Main Street on the right-hand side along the street, they want to increase substantially the size of that little bump out that's designed to create a ramp area for wheelchair accessible or ADA to that crosswalk. And then the center one, they want a raised island put in there. Um, and when I called them and spoke to them, I said, well, this really isn't got anything to do with the bus stop as you proposed. Well, yeah, but we think it'll make it safer to slow people down. So to me, it's a stretch and not a very bright one to begin with, in my opinion. Um, the questions they're asking are, is this a priority site for us to do? My answer would be heck no. Um, should work be advanced on this site? Double down, heck no, is my opinion. And is there any work that either us, an agency or municipality, is doing there already? And of course, there's not. Um, so I don't see this. Just seems like a make busy job that would make a nightmare for plowing snow and provide no enhancement to the safety of people getting on or off the buses way back down at the library. Your input as well. I'd like to hear any comments you may have.
Well, I guess one question is if the bus is currently parking at the library, or not parking, but stopping at the library, um, is that considered a safety hazard if it's right by the turn there?
No, they're not going to. I asked them, are you going to move the bus stop up there? And they said, oh no, that's fine where it is.
Why are they then showing a bus in orange in front of the senior center? Or is that not a bus? What is that?
That's the area they want to build a new medium. So right now the street goes up, has this bump out curb to allow for the ramp grading into that. You can see the indication. See that little couple of triangles by a square at the end of the crosswalk? That's a little bump out area there to the right of it. But they want to increase it substantially and bring it back towards Main Street.
So all of that orange area would be a bump out?
Yep.
Hmm.
Wow.
I can
And
just hear the plows hitting it now.
I can, I can.
yeah, they'll peel that middle one up in about,
And what is the orange thing in the middle of the road supposed to represent?
as I said, that's a raised area. They want to put a raised median spot there of brick or something to,
Oh, that would divide the road?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Huh.
So I said, okay, I can't find any good reason to do any of this.
Well, that would
It's-
definitely slow the traffic down.
Sure.
It also, maintenance on the plows would increase.
Well,
And
you know,
the crosswalk would be raised up also? Or
no,
not?
not where
Oh,
it
no.
passes, not where it passes through that new little
Oh,
meet.
I see. Oh, this is sort of like the thing at the end of Mechanic Street, that little triangle where you have a crosswalk going through yeah,
A double
huh,
curb raised. Yeah,
right. Huh.
I don't see it as anything more than a headache. I don't, I think if you back up, the original intent was to improve the safety of the bus loading zones at the library and the bank building. But what the woman told me when I called down there was, well, when you did the Main Street over or Bridge Street over, all those things were taken care of. The crosswalk, the ADA, the everything that needed to be done there to make that a safer area for pedestrians is already done. So they said, well,
Hmm.
let's look up the street a little bit. They're just looking for work to waste money, in my opinion, but that's just me.
Yeah. It's kind of how I'm looking at it.
They did ask for responses by today, and that was the main reason I called them, in addition to find out more specifics, was to say, we don't meet until that night. Can we let you know on July 1st? And they said, absolutely no problem. So we do need to send them an answer tomorrow on these questions, uh, basically whether or not we want them to pursue it or not.
Yeah, well, I would say the one thing that I hear a fair amount of from residents on Main Street and Bridge Street is that people drive too fast on those roads. But I don't see this placement as being necessarily helping with that concern, just because it's so close to the stop sign that people are already slowing down by the time they
Mhm.
get in that far. I think it's more, you know, a block or two farther north where people start to pick up speed.
Yep.
Um,
You recall we did have a resident request a study, and the chief put out the recording radar system both ways over several months, and there was no evidence whatsoever that it was a significant problem enough to deal with. That it was, yeah, occasionally you'll get one, but the percentage was so low that there was no reason to take action, and the board so voted. But that's a good year, maybe a year and a half ago that we
Mhm.
did that. But so what's your pleasure? I think we need to take a vote as to whether we recommend this or not. I'm still uh, open to a motion and more discussion, or a continued discussion before a motion. You pick.
I guess
I
my
make them,
motion would be to refer this um, question to the planning board and to let them chew on it for a little while. And if they wanted to hold public hearings or see if there was any community support or opposition to traffic calming in the village, that to me would be more in the bailiwick of the planning board. I think without having residents or businesses come forward and say that we need this, it feels a little odd to just be saying, "Oh, the DOT wants to do this project," and we haven't had any real public participation in whether or not this is a plus or a minus for the town, you know. So yeah, it's fine for us to say what our personal opinions are about it being good or bad, but to me, that's almost, you know, that's kind of a little backwards. That generally, I think these things should come forward from some community impetus. If people were saying, "Oh, I'm," like up on the corner of Bridge and Maple, where somebody got hit by a car, in the crosswalk, and there was a big uproar about that. That's an example of the community coming forward and saying, "Here's a problem, deal with it." But I haven't, this is coming from DOT rather than from anybody in the community. So I'd rather just push it over to the planning board and let them decide whether they want to engage the community in this question or not.
Well, I agree that they've got the sequence out of order to my preference as well. In the absence of it being a known trouble spot, if that were the case, it's our responsibility to say, heck yeah, let's deal with this. Go ahead, move forward. It's not a town road. This is Route 2A, and that's why DOT is on it. It's in their purview, not ours, really. But they're giving us the ability to decide if we want this done. But they want an answer tomorrow. So an answer tomorrow that says we want to kick the can down the road and send it to our planning board, we'll get back to in a couple of months, is a no.
Then fine. If it's a yes or no tomorrow, I would say no. But if they want, to consider whether the community has any interest in this project, then they should give it to a group that engages the community in questions of um, land use and traffic and all that kind of stuff. And that to me is the planning board.
Yeah, well, I think it should also involve potentially the senior center. I mean, those people are going to be impacted. Right now, people pull up there, let people off. There's a
Right.
handicap ramp to get into the senior center. That would be taken away. There's more reasons to say this doesn't make any sense than there are
Well,
that it.
naturally, anytime you do any project, you have to notify the abutters and give them their due process. That's true. That was true on Old Greenfield Road when we did a roadway project. So, to me, that's just a matter of course that the abutters get to have their say.
Well, I'd be interested in hearing a motion to the effect of the select board is not in favor of giving a positive recommendation to proceed with this. However, if they care to pursue it through our planning board or community outreach and revisit it with more input, they're welcome to. Something to that
So
effect.
moved.
All
I
right,
like that.
will second that. I think if we give them both of those options to say we're not saying yes on a tomorrow vote, but if you want to engage the public process, then go talk to our planning board.
Good. It's been moved
Yeah.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the matter to a vote. Rodney,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
and I am I. Motion passes 3-0. Item B, end of budgetary year transfers. You have that document before you. There's several small ones, $89.09 from treasurer's to town collector's software maintenance account, 21 cents bookkeeping work for care of veterans grave account to the veterans center account, and $500 from the street lighting account to the legal expense account. All these things needing to get done today, June 30th. Any discussion? Any comments?
Just a question on the street lighting account. Terry, is that because you estimate that those are savings that we've achieved through our efforts, or is it just kind of leftover money that from budgeting the previous Eversource approach to streetlight management?
Yes, there is a significant balance in the street lighting account, and I do attribute that to the new lights versus the Eversource lights.
Oh, okay. So we are actually beginning to save money from
Oh,
that
yes. Yeah, I
transition.
believe I sent statistics out a few months ago and the savings were quite impressive.
Okay, good. Great. Now that was my only question.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we have a motion to approve the budget transfers as proposed?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the budget transfers as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Andrew?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
I am I. Motion passes 300. Buildings, facility, and grounds laborer position. This is something that we've talked about in the past. It keeps raising its ugly head that we don't have one. Buckland's had one for years. It is something that makes total sense to me for this town. Terry did take several passes at this and has sent them to us. The current one before us is a modification or adaptation of the Buckland uh, job description for a building, facilities, and grounds laborer. We've been fortunate to have volunteers step up and kind of sort of fill that position, but not really. Like John Walsh, who stepped up to help us on so many occasions and so many things. Um, I've reviewed this version that was sent to us in our packets, and I think it's something we need to move forward on. It's already budgeted. Am I correct, Terry?
We have a budget for the buildings and grounds account. Out of it, we pay two or three different people on a part-time basis to perform snow removal, mowing, cleaning. So yes, there is funds in that account.
Okay. This would be a benefited account as well, right?
If the board chooses, yes. I believe that was the vote of the board at our last meeting.
Right. To make it 20 hours,
Yes,
which is the threshold.
yes.
Um, any discussion, comments on the position description?
I have none.
No, I think it makes sense to go forward with it, and 20 hours will give us room to find out what the actual scope of the job will be, and I'm guessing that the scope will begin to accumulate depending on, if we find somebody who has a portfolio of skills to address a variety of needs. You could imagine them doing a bunch of things at Cowell Gym or, other places that are not currently being addressed and are just piling up deferred maintenance. Um, but that, I think what we've been doing now with the several part-time people is also a reflection of their skills and so that's what we focus on because that's what we've got, but I think this would give us an opportunity to advertise and maybe find somebody with a wider skill set.
Yep, I agree. And the person that actually you just referenced there has chosen not to continue to do those things, like shovel snow and take care of some of this. So we
Right.
definitely need to find someone. And when we hear about John Walsh as an example, when there's a leak in the roof at Cowell, and he goes up and gets up on the roof to shovel a path to the area where the roofer can come and look at it. I mean, that's just wrong. We need a town employee doing that. I think the scuppers that got plugged on top of Memorial Hall caused leak damage. And again, we just need somebody to take care of this so that stuff doesn't happen. So,
Yeah.
um, Rod, any comments or would you like to move the position or?
I think we should move forward on this, and I so move that we address this.
So it's been moved that you're moving that we accept and create the position of building
Correct.
facilities and grounds laborer
Yes,
At 20 hours a week.
at 20
at
hours
20 hours a week.
and advertise for the same.
Yes.
Right. Having said all that, in a collective fashion, I will second it.
I'm shooting for 7 o'clock. I still have jet lag. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, put the matter to a vote. Rod,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
and I am aye. Motion passes 3-0 to create the position at 20 hours and advertise for same. Annual appointments. We have the packet, a list. We can start with the one-year terms, which includes everything from technology and cable down to streetlight advisory committee. It's on the first page. I've reviewed it, compared it to my notes over the year that I keep of who's in what spot and so on. It all is accurate there to me. And I would move that I would think that we would want to reappoint the people listed under the one-year terms. Comments, discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion, Terry?
Just
would
to
like-
clarify, we're moving the one-year terms.
Correct.
Yes. Who would like to serve as a select board representative to the Emergency Management Committee? That's the only hole there.
I believe Rod.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the one-year terms? Hearing none, put the matter to a vote. Andrew?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Three-year terms. We have the Ag Commission, Nealman Scholarship, Hill Cemetery, CPC, Conservation Commission, Council on Aging, Cultural Aging. Let's stop on that first page of three-year terms, agricultural and Carl Nealman. Any discussion there?
Are
Second,
you just going to go committee by committee here?
I think until we get to the end, and then we'll do the three-year terms as a package, or no?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how the motion will be framed about the vacancies. I mean, well, I guess my other question is, of the yellow highlights, which are 2025 positions, those are the ones that we're voting to extend, right?
Right.
Correct.
And have all of those people indicated their willingness to be extended?
No, what happens is they're reappointed this evening, then they'll receive a letter asking if they wish to accept the appointment. And then I'll report back to the board if we have, I have two people on community preservation, no, one on community preservation and one on conservation that do not wish to be reappointed. But with the exception, every committee has been notified, every committee chair, they've told me to go ahead with these reappointments.
And if they're reappointed, they also have to go get sworn in again.
Yes.
As well. So, all right. So there's the couple on ag. There's the one for Nealman. Hill Cemetery, there's just one, the vacant position. Until we get somebody to appoint to it, there's nothing we can do there. The CPC, Terry, you noted the first one, the Conservation Commission representative is not to be reappointed. So that one comes out. But also we have before us tonight in communications, Edith Bingham does not want to be reappointed to the Historic Preservation slot.
But she wouldn't be reappointed until 2026, so that would be vacant once her
Right.
resignation is accepted.
Okay, so we would change that to vacant after we accept the resignation.
Correct.
Perfect. And there's several in there, again, all received by the chair for reappointment. Conservation Commission, same issue on the first one, would become a vacant spot. And the third one there for renewal. Council on Aging, none for renewal. Cultural Council, there's 9 seats. One is going to become vacant. And one to reappoint, which is Owen. Continuing on to the next page of the 3-year terms, the open space. We have 3. One is already, well, I guess we haven't accepted the actual resignation until later. Larry Flackus will be resigning as well, and that one will become a vacancy as well. There. Registrar of voters, there's just one under sewer commission for reappointment. And that ends the 3-year term period. Any comments, questions there? Yes, Andrew.
Would it be helpful to accept the 2 letters of resignation now so that we can go forward with a cleaner motion?
I have no problem with doing that. Terry, is that acceptable?
Sure.
Okay. We'll jump down real briefly to correspondence. We have a letter from Larry Flackus. Open Space Committee, this is to inform you that our regular meeting scheduled for June 23rd was canceled due to computer issues. As I previously informed you, they've sold the farm, and so he is resigning from the board and appointing Joan LaPierre as chair pro tem to serve until the opportunity of the group to meet again. And Edith, to whom it may concern, I will no longer be participating in the Community Preservation Committee. Thank you. So I would be prepared to take a motion to accept with regret those 2 resignations.
I'll move that and thank them for their service.
Yes, I'll second them. Thank them.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, matter to a vote. Andrew?
Aye.
And Rod?
Aye.
I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0 to accept the 2 resignations. Now back to the 3-year terms. We now know those spots that we mentioned would be going out will become vacant slots. Is there a motion to accept the
Do we
3?
need to say anything about the vacancies or just the ones that where people have names in them?
No, it'd just be a blanket motion to renew or to accept the appointments for a 3-year term. And then I'll update the list that there's a vacant seat for 2028. I'll let the chairs know that there's a vacancy there, and hopefully they'll bring forth someone new.
Okay, I will move that then.
And then I will second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, matter to a vote. Andrew?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
And I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. We'll move on to the 5-year terms. I don't see any on the first page.
Yeah,
Under
Eric.
zoning, Rick, I failed to highlight Eric Lucentini.
Oh, yes, I see that. There's one that needs renewal.
I would move that we renew Eric Lucentini
For a 5-year
for the 5-year term
zoning board of
on zoning board.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, matter to a vote. Andrew?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
I am aye. Motion passes 3-0-0. Appointed officials, 1-year terms. Didn't see any changes that jumped out to me there. The newest being Clay Connor under Cowell Gym Director, which we appointed just within the last month or so. We have a vacant spot there that's been vacant for quite a while. A couple of vacant spots on Board of Health, but for those that are there, none on the first page to deal with. None on the second page that I see to deal with. Sewer Commissioner vacancy, Town Administrator, Transfer Station Attendant vacant. we should
I will add Bailey's name.
Billy Cole would replace vacancy in that first of 3 slots. So that would be the only change there. So we'll reappoint. We need a motion to reappoint these to their 1-year terms.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I do have a question just on this whole section here, Terry. Why is it that we appoint our town employees on a yearly basis, and particularly the ones that, like Greg, that has a 3-year contract with us?
Greg and I are the two people that probably shouldn't be on this list, but it's just a process we've done for a million years.
Just rolling along here. Okay.
Yep.
All right. It just seems odd to me that people who are town employees who, if you don't have a contract, you're an at-will employee, right?
Yes.
So what is the meaning of a 1-year appointment?
Not very deep.
Okay.
I'll throw that question out to other towns to see what they do. Because I
Okay.
agree. I mean, to have people swear in that they accept their duties every year, but and
If
It's
there's some
they-
benefit to it, I'd say keep rolling along with it, but it just seems odd to me that,
yeah, and it's a lot of work for me to send letters to everyone, wait and see if they come in and get sworn in, and
yeah, it seems like with the people we employ, we have a different process for kind of overseeing them and
Mhm.
and evaluating them and you know keeping them on task with whatever it is their charge is, you know.
I will do some research.
Yeah.
um, several of them in here are not employees, right? Or is Veterans Agent an employee, Chris Demars?
No.
Yeah,
No, there's a bunch that are
they
not town employees that
kind of mixed and matched in there. Maybe we could break them
yeah,
out. Trying
yeah.
to separate out though the employees for future. I agree. It seems strange, but actually Jeff mentioned it, Highway, during one of our interviews that was common practice he was familiar with that happens every year, but
Hmm.
why? Nobody knows.
Yeah. Well, I'm all in favor of saving paperwork for Terry there. If there's
Thank you.
a way we can streamline here, that would be good.
So we did have a motion and a second, or
Yes. Yes, we did.
put the matter to a vote then. Andrew,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
I am I. Motion passes 3-0-0. Any other business? Andrew, you wanted to discuss 49 Mechanic Street again. Rod, we brought this up. Andrew brought it up last meeting, which you were away. And so I'll give Andrew the floor to give you the thumbnail of what he wanted to discuss in that regard.
So, Rod, I think you were at the town meeting, so you're aware of the whole discussion and tie vote that we had on
Yeah.
the 49
Yes.
Mechanic Street question. And after that vote, a number of people approached me and said, I'd be willing to just donate to get that first, survey done so we at least know what it is we're dealing with, or at least to that extent. So I talked to Megan McDonough from Habitat, who's the only nonprofit affordable housing developer who's expressed any interest in that property, and she said she would be willing to be the sort of nonprofit sponsor of a survey of that lot so we could establish its dimensions and at least answer the question of the buildability. So I'm just bringing that to the board to say, does the board give its blessing to have Habitat go ahead and do a survey of that lot and collect donations from whoever might be interested in supporting that initiative? So it would be of no cost to the town, but we would at least move one step forward on determining whether that lot is worth $80,000 or $4,000. Because those are, according to our assessor's assistant, if it's a building lot for which can only be used for affordable housing development, then it could be valued as a building lot. And if it's not buildable, then it would be valued as a side yard, which is, according to her, is about $4,000.
And one of the key things I think at town meeting was the frontage, right? So a
That is one question, yeah, that we have to establish.
survey would nail that down.
Yeah.
Is there any liability in us saying, sure, private group, go ahead and do a survey?
I can't imagine.
I don't think so.
You can't imagine that there
I
is,
bet there would be liability no more than walking down the sidewalk in front of that lot, and that's just as bumpy and
I mean, we currently turn a blind eye to the neighbor who kindly mows that lot, which has probably a lot more liability questions attached to it. But he does maintain it in a nice way as a volunteer.
well, at the very least, should town meeting have approved that, that would be money we would have needed to find to get done anyway. And if this is an opportunity to get it done without town funds, I don't see a problem with that at all.
All right.
I don't.
Your
I'm
thought,
sorry, couldn't hear you.
me or Rod?
Rod.
I see no
Oh, okay.
I see no problem with a private people coming in.
Okay.
Does that need a motion or just acknowledgement that we support you giving them the blessing to move forward?
What do you
just
think, Terry?
acknowledgement is fine.
Okay. I will let Megan know that she can go forward then.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
We took care of correspondence, public comment, nobody from the public, except those who may listen later. So a motion for adjournment. Oh, you're going to be away
I
the
make-
next meetings, right, Andrew?
I'm going to be away from the 12th to the 19th.
And then you had the next one you were out. You gave me two.
And the next one
Was it
uh,
the
is
28th through the
the-
1st?
right. Yes.
That's two meetings. So we'll see you at the next meeting would be in August,
Okay.
Easy.
right?
Unless you
guess
want to
so.
zoom in.
I might be able to zoom in on one of those. I'll be in Maine on one and I'll be in Boston for the second one, but the second one is more zoomable. I'm just doing grandchild care.
Well, we all need a break, and
Yeah,
grandchild care, I can tell you, is not a break, but
right.
it's a blessing. So yeah, if you make those meetings, fine. If you don't, fine. Rod and I both are able to make both those meetings and do
Yes.
warrant on the following.
Yes.
So we got you
Correct.
there.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for the heads up on that too. So now we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Then I'll motion we adjourn the meeting.
Actually, the project that I am, sorry, Rod, I will second in a minute,
Go
but
ahead.
just the project that I am interested in addressing since I've been following it for a couple of years now is the Pocket Park bidding project. Terry, do you know when that we will be taking that up?
Proposals are due on the 21st at 2 p.m. So I will share the proposals with each of you. And if I'm not sure, I don't have a calendar in front of me when the
The
date of
20,
our first meeting in August will be.
well,
14.
the
We could
28th,
potentially take that up on the 28th of July if we
Okay.
have viable proposals.
Okay. Well, I'll plan to zoom in on the 28th then.
Okay.
terrific.
Great. And I will second the motion to adjourn.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Motion is before us. A vote. And Rod, you've made it.
Aye.
And Andrew?
Aye.
I am I. Motion passes 3-0 to adjourn at 7:04. Thank you guys so much. We're very close to 7, and it feels later than that to me. But have a good evening.
All right.
Thank
You as well.
You
Take
too.
care.
Enjoy.